Welcome everybody to Simply Cyber, the YouTube channel designed to help you make and take a cybersecurity career further, faster. And I'm going to fix my branding here. There we go. Today's episode is a bit of a renegade live stream. I was supposed to do this Wednesday, pushed it to Friday, but as a follow-up to the YouTube video I published as my fixed schedule on Monday, I did a CMMC. I said it's basically a job that's coming pretty soon. It's going to have high demand because of the requirements that the U.S. government's going to be putting on businesses and contractors that are working with the government, frankly, that there's going to have to be people doing prep work for businesses to get them ready. There's going to have to be people talking to the business to help them understand, like, you know, in an iterative, ongoing fashion, how they can operationalize it. And then also there's going to be independent third-party auditors, and that is really going to be a booming business, frankly. So a lot of people are going to be able to get employed both as like an auditor and as kind of a compliance expert, right? So what I wanted to do today, because I worked in the federal IT space for years, and like really what CMMC is just a new branding of 80171, which was just a new branding of risk management framework, which was a new branding of FISMA, right? So it's all the same stuff. It's all the same controls. They all trace back to the same control dictionary. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit, explain what is actually going on with CMMC, and we'll start looking at the actual controls. This is like the actual meat of what would be expected of you, and I'm going to explain it, give you my thoughts on it, tell you what an auditor would be looking for and how you could help your organization. Because really, at the end of the day, what I want people to take away from this video, and probably a couple more, because there's a lot of controls to get to, is that I want you to understand what these controls are, because if you understand them, then you are valuable to an organization, aka employable or contracted out, 1099, whatever you want. You can make cash with this knowledge, right? And that's what we're all trying to do, right? Now, I will tell you, I don't have a mod really. I'm doing modding and lecturing at the same time here. So if I miss your chat or whatever, I'm sorry. But we'll get to it. Just remind me afterwards. I'll stop periodically and ask for questions. Also, we'll be doing a giveaway. I didn't really promote this or anything, but we have a Blue Team Labs online 1 month thing to give away. Thanks for the cyber supply drop. So, we'll do that afterwards. Okay. So let's get into it a little bit here. So give me a moment, because I have to get my stuff straightened out here. We're going to share this screen. We're going to share. Hopefully you guys are all pumped up. Those beats that I play at the beginning, that gets me pumped. I'm sitting here just jamming my fist in the air, feeling good about everything. So, all right, let's look here. This is going to be, I'm going to go full screen. Yeah. Okay. So this is not the tab I really want. Yeah. Okay. This is the CMMC model and assessment guide page, right? So if you Google CMMC, this is what you'll get. And I showed this in my video, but specifically we're on the CMMC model and assessment guides. And we're going to just look at the model PDF really quick, because I want to give you a kind of a scoping explanation of what we're doing here, not just dive into the controls, because if you can understand really the scope of what we're doing, it'll make a lot more sense as we build it out. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Okay. So I clicked on that document. Hopefully you guys are seeing it. Yeah, it looks good. Let me zoom in a little bit for y'all. Okay. So this is just this PDF. No big deal, right? You can read this on your own time. I'm going to skip right to the juicy bits. Okay. This is explaining why we need it. Okay. So one thing that we gotta, one thing that we have to lay out here is that the way that this has worked is based on a specific set of data, right? So there's going to be two kinds of data, right? There's like kind of this federal data thing, which is not a big deal. And then the big one is controlled unclassified information, or CUI or CUI, some people call it, right? And this is information or data that non-government people would have access to or on their computers. This could be like blueprints to the F-35, which might be even considered classified, which is a totally different realm. But it could be like supply chain logistics. It could be the number of ball bearings that the Army is ordering for a base somewhere or for a tank manufacturing company, right? So like it doesn't have to be like super secret squirrel stuff. It can be anything, but if it's defined as controlled unclassified information, because that is what we need to be protecting. Okay, so let me go, okay, so go back to the document, right? So they've got this laid out. They're talking about model domains, processes, capability, practices. I don't want you to worry about that, okay? This even confused me at first. I was like, what are they talking about? Especially because they called it simplified. I'm like, seems a little bit. So what they're actually talking about when they talk about process and practices here and capabilities, what we're really talking about is your level of information security maturity. How mature are you, right? You can see it goes level 1 up to level 5. It stacks up. And most organizations that have nothing in place are going to be like level 0 or level 1, right? And they're going to want to start putting things in place. Now, as a quick aside, I mentioned this in the video the other day, but most organizations are going to seek level 3, okay? Now, level 1 is fine, and some orgs will get that, but level 3 is the one that the bulk of people are going for, or level 5 for some people. Level 2 is like, I think they added it so it would be sequential. Level 2 is like a garbage level. It's a transition level. No one's going for level 2. There's no value in going to 2. You just go to 3, right? And level 4 and 5 are like the same level. So if you're going to go to 4, you might as well get 5 because that's where the contracts are going to be, right? Okay, so that's like a little truth, right? So you can see it's basically increasing in level of maturity, sophistication. Are you performing, a lot of small businesses, they perform practices like password reset, but maybe they don't have it documented. So are you documenting it? Then are you managing those documents? Like, are they reviewed, or I guess that's the next level, reviewed annually. Managed meaning, leadership is involved in improving it. It gets socially disseminated to people. Optimize is what you would think. Like, not only are you reviewing it, but you're making it better. Okay, this is pretty standard stuff, guys. We're just improving the overall program. Now, the program is going to be composed of all the controls that we're going to put in place, which is what we're digging into again. But this is what they all kind of map up to, all right? Back to my PDF. You can see here they talk about the levels, and this is the information I was talking about, the FCI, and here's the CUI, right? And then you see level 4 and 5 is the same thing. Level 2 is a transition step. Again, no one's going level 2. It's like, what are we doing here? I get frustrated with it. Okay, again, you can see they're doing the steps, right? So it's just a different visualization of what you would do if you were progressing your program. The important thing is, if you reach level 5, unless you're going to be bidding on a contract that's once you reach level 3, unless you're going to bid on a contract that requires level 5 certification, you don't need to implement these things. Now, I will tell you, just as a practicing professional, minimum compliance or maximum compliance equals minimum security. So like, yes, you only need to get to level 3 in order to win the contracts for level 3, but you shouldn't build your information security program if you know anything to meet just the minimum of level 3. Like, yeah, you can win the contracts, but there's some gaping holes. It's a general approach to securing data. It's not a comprehensive program that's built around your threat model and your risk appetite and stuff like that. So this is a tough argument to make to leadership when you're trying to ask for more money, and they say, well, we're compliant with this, and it's like, compliance is not security, my friend. Okay, so I just want to make everyone aware that you don't have to go past level 3 if that's what you're seeking, but you shouldn't treat it as like you give yourself a pat on the back that you guys are wicked secure. Okay, so check it out. All right, so I think at this point I've given a good explanation of what these different levels are. And again, you can dig in to this PDF document, which is on the CMMC website, and it gives you really good explanations of all the different levels and what they mean. So if you're a new professional to the industry and you don't understand what these maturity levels are or what the key differences are, this document can help you, right? And I said this the other day on my fixed video, and I'm actually preparing I'm writing an article for the next issue of Haunted Hacker magazine around GRC training. But here's the thing, people, what we're doing today, what I'm talking about, all this stuff, it's GRC training. blue team, like red team has obviously got like their really cool, fancy pop and shells labs with cool graphics and stuff. Blue team's coming on the scene recently. They've got, Cyber Defenders Blue Team labs online. So they're starting to get cool tech and labs and stuff like that. But GRC is basically like a marginalized outlier that doesn't really get cool training because people are like, ooh, policy, right? But it's so much more than that, but it doesn't have cool training type stuff. So in order to get the training, this is what I'm talking about you have to do. You have to like read this document and understand it. And by the way, if you ever want to be a CISO, like understanding program maturity and how you go from where you are today to where you want to be and do it in a logical, risk-reducing manner, this is the crap you have to understand, right? So like GRC people typically become CISOs because this is what they get brought up on, okay? Not to say that blue teamer and red teamers can't be CISOs. I'm not saying that, but okay. So let's see if there's any more. Oh yeah. So this is the final thing I want to take you guys through on this. This is they call them domains, but effectively they're control families, okay? So these are the control families that are going to be in scope for CMMC compliance, right? And you can see they map to different elements of a information security program, right? Access control, very important. Incident response, they got, there's risk around here, I'm sure somewhere. Risk management, there it is. So this is the controls that we will be going into, but you can kind of tell we're starting to drill down right into this. Okay, so let me switch scenes here and get you into what we need to get into. How do I do this, guy? Bear with me, people, okay? Bear with me. So in the video I published on Monday, I actually referenced an Excel sheet. Well, this is going to be a spoiler alert for some people. I found a better one, okay? I found a much better one. Okay, so this is what this is, and I'll make this available to the audience after the stream's over. I'll post it on a Google Drive share. But what we're looking at here is an Excel spreadsheet that has all of the controls that are in scope. You can see like this is basically the domain, right? This map to those domains I just showed you. This is what they call the capacity, which don't worry about that because basically right here is essentially the control that they want you to implement or that you'll be auditing to verify. And then it goes into some description around like how that practice or how you would implement that control. And then there's some descriptions here. And again, you're going to notice, hopefully, is this, can someone just tell me, like in chat, like, is this big enough? Can you guys see this all right? I'll keep talking for a second, but let me know if this is good from a visual perspective. You'll notice that all of these have an 853 component to them, right here. And it's going to be like that for all of them because literally this is lifted from 853, which is the control dictionary that NIST puts out that drives FISMA 171, CSF, and now CMMC, okay? So, okay, cool. All right, thanks for the feedback, guys. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, if you were an auditor, right, there's two approaches here, right? So if you're an auditor, what you're going to basically do is take this spreadsheet and you're going to map it to an audit plan, which doesn't take that much effort, right? Like you're basically checking if they do this, checking if they do that, checking if they do that, and putting in place like, yes, they're doing it, partially doing it, not doing it at all, and then requesting some evidence, a piece of documentation, a screenshot. Show me like the last 50 users that you disabled, and I'll pick one and show me like the life cycle of that person being disabled, right? So these are the things that auditors ask for. And there's a whole technique around that we can get into if people are interested in that. The other kind of way to use this or piece is if you're going to help an organization get prepared for compliance, which is effectively like doing internal soft audits, right? And you can use this document the same way where you basically pretend you're an auditor and say, hey, listen, I need to talk to HR people. I need to talk to IT infrastructure people. I need to talk to, help desk people, endpoint management people, whatever, applications people. And I need to set up meetings with these people and discuss if these things are in place. And if they're not, like how bad a gap is it? Is it completely not in place, or is it even applicable? Right? You might have something that's not applicable, like you lock physical media up, but you don't have any physical media like printouts and thumb drives and stuff like that, right? So you can do that type of thing. All right. So let's hopefully that makes sense for how the two different audiences would use this. So like let's actually get into this one right now, and I'll spend some time going through at least the access control domain, and we'll go from there. Okay. So the very first one, AC1001, right? Limit information system access to authorized users, processes acting on behalf of authorized users or devices, including other information systems. Okay, like here's a pro tip from my auditing days, by the way. If you walk into an interview and ask them if they're doing that, like that language, they're going to look at you like you have two heads, and they're going to be like, what are you asking me? I don't understand what you're asking me. So you need to like be familiar with these things in advance. And even what I used to do personally was create a second column and write a like logical question that a human would actually understand in a conversation. And I would ask that question because a lot of times you can bundle some of these things together into one question and get the responses that you actually need to accomplish that. Okay, so limit information system access to authorized users, processes acting on behalf of authorized users or devices. Okay, so this is around basic access control, and a lot of how do we do this, right? Like we probably use like RBAC, right? Role-based access control, Active Directory. You can say we have Active Directory and all users in the environment need Active Directory. You could go one step further and say we use multi-factor authentication for accessing into the environment remotely. Like basically you could just lay out like what are all your access controls, and realistically any auditor is going to be like, okay, that makes sense, and they're going to move on to the next one, because like this is 2021. No one is going to be like, no one's going to be used like, I mean, they shouldn't, but like one shared account, like for everybody in the organization. That's just stupid. Like no one does that. Most like any business that's trying to win government contracts and stuff is using AD, or they've leveraged some like Office 365 infrastructure where they have individual accounts and the AD piece is kind of managed on the back end for them. So like no one's failing this one, right? Unless you're a complete whack job, right? So, and with all due respect to people that are not doing it the right way, let me just step that back and not call those people whack jobs. Okay, like it's a really bad practice and one I haven't seen in years. Okay, so that's how you would answer and document that one, and you literally, that's how you would do it. You would document what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then you'd mark it compliant. Oh, I also want to put here this level category right here is the level of CMMC maturity. So we're only caring about levels 1, 2, and 3. That's another thing, is like CMMC, it basically level 1 is level 1, level 2 is level 1 and 2, level 3 is level 1, 2, and 3, right? So everything kind of pushes up into the previous or the successive level, right? So level 5 is everything. Okay, so we only care about level 1, 2, and 3 as far as this document goes. Oh, you know what? I probably should have put a little scrolly banner on the bottom there. That's my bad. Sorry about that. Okay, so item 2, provide privacy and security notices consistent with applicable CUI rules. Okay, so you'd have to look up what the CUI rules are, but normally the way that you're going to address this as a practitioner or something is, when you like log into a computer and you get that splash screen that no one reads, it's like 500 words, that is what you want, right? Or if you have, if you're going to print out CUI type information, you put a cover page on it, fax cover page, like this type of thing, where for anyone that's accessing CUI, are they made aware that they're about to access CUI? And if they are, cool. This control, by the way, super easy to implement, right? Super easy to meet, right? Okay, next one, limit use of portable storage devices on external systems. Okay. Can we just pause for a second? Limit, right? So what does that mean? That's so like subjective, right? Like we only limit it to everybody in the organization, right? That's a true statement. So this is another one of those controls that like, I don't want to say anyone can get, but like this is a perfect control where any organization can bend it in such a way that they're going to be able to be compliant with it. Now, you want to practice good cyber hygiene, right? And you want to be a good steward of the government's data or CUI. So you don't want to just pencil whip this one. But what I'm saying is a lot of these controls allow you the flexibility to really define the way that you're implementing the control. And this one's a perfect one because you can limit it however you define. But really what we're trying to do with this control here is Maybe you don't issue USB drives to staff, or you have a policy that says USB drives aren't allowed, or only USB drives that can be encrypted are allowed, or USB ports on computers are disabled by default, and you have to get them enabled. This type of thing. This is concerned with data walking out the door, right? And also malicious data, a malicious thumb drive being stuck into the computers, right? So that's what this one is working with. Okay, I'm going to look at comments right after this one right here, and just kind of engage for a second, because I'm basically just like yelling at my camera right now, and I miss talking with you all. So the next one is another limit, right? Great. Limit information system access to the types of transactions and functions that authorized uses are permitted to execute. Now, this is a classic one that we see in all the different frameworks, but basically what it's saying is only give someone permissions to do the things that they need, okay? Now, again, we're going to say, oh, we're doing this with role-based access control, RBAC. Only people get put in AD groups. This is one, in my opinion, my honest opinion, that, okay, this is one where even if you're doing it poorly, an auditor is not going to catch it, right? And like, you want to do it right, but you can show like, here's our AD, here's our user groups, this is how we're given access and everything. But like when Jess Bishop, hey Jess, comes on board and she's going to be doing the same job as Jack Scott, everybody at every organization says, oh, hey, just give Jess the same access that Jax has, right? The thing is, Jax has been here for 5 years, worked in 3 different roles, and we're not disabling her access as she switches roles because we're bad at that control also. And now Jess has 5 years worth of access, right? The auditor may, if they're being wicked aggressive, they may say, hey, listen, like pick 2 accounts in AD and pull their what they have access to, and then tell me what their job is, right? You could go to that level. I think auditors don't typically do that very often, but just be aware that like this is one of those ones where it's great in theory, it's great on paper. People try to do the right thing, but if you've ever worked in any real environment, you know that Active Directory is a hot mess dumpster fire, right? Like everybody wants to fix it, but it is what it is. Okay. So, all right. So I said I wanted to talk with y'all. Let me see what's going on. Please firewall off RDP from normal users. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's another one. Oh no, it's cool. We got RDP. We can jump in and help anyone. Yeah. So can everybody else. Okay. Let's see. Like Jess is on level 3. Nice. By the way, great to see everyone here. There's 35 of you. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so patient room has read. Yeah, so right here. Yeah, so this is a good example, right? Controlling read, write, execute, access. So people, this is even a more refined level of permission. So it's not just do you have access or do you not have access, but what type of access to the resources. This is a great one. Yep, BSEC's limited into the company. Does number 1 include lateral movement when workstation accesses workstations? Oh, you're just joking. Okay. Okay. That is pretty funny. I don't know the VPAP template, Jess. You'll have to let me know what that is. But Lieutenant Days, I don't know. Is that a compliment, Josh? I don't know. Let's see, flies on a wall. Evidence is submitted before, during audit may be asked to run through tasks to provide evidence. Yeah, absolutely. So when you are doing an audit, typically the process will be an advanced evidence collection list of policies and procedures around different domains and skills and stuff like that. And then once they have it, if they're going to test the actual efficacy of the process, that's where they'll say, hey, it says that your user disabled process, an email goes to HR, or the manager of the person leaving sends to HR. HR then marks it in this system and then sends it to IT for termination or whatever. And then, the circle gets closed, right? So show me like the last 3 people that got terminated here and these pieces of evidence. So that is true. And you will see that. You'll even see sometimes a request for evidence after the on-site audit is completed, just to refine, a certain finding or something like that. Okay. Just continuing to look through some of these comments, see if anyone had a question. You just did a level 3 mock audit. This was helpful. Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly. And this is what I was saying, flies on a wall. Like, I really feel like there's going to be a ton of demand and opportunity for people who understand some of CMMC and how to navigate it, because people are doing mock audits, people are doing prep work, and people will be getting audited here. So, all right, so let's jump back into our worksheet here. So we just did this one. Now we're moving on to AC 2007. This is around NIST Rev 4 AC 6. Okay, least privilege, including security functions and privileged accounts. This is really similar. Like, I'd actually have to do some looking at the actual AC2, AC3, and AC6 to see really what the difference is. Because this is, access to functions, and this is calling out specific security and privilege functions, but it just says including. So a lot of times in these standards, they'll include like, let me zoom in on that a little bit. In these standards, they'll include general end user access and permissions, and then they'll include privileged IT access and permissions, because they just have way more power to do all those things, right? So I can't really give you an explanation off from the hip, because I'm reading these with you guys on the difference between those two without doing a little bit more research. Okay, use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. Okay, this one is a super good one, right? So basically what this is saying is that you're not using domain admin or sysadmin as your daily driver. You're not logging into your computer as a domain admin and going and checking email and going and checking the score from last night's game, and doing normal operation stuff. The reason being is that if you get compromised, which could happen, your domain creds get pulled down, right? And you've logged into a bunch of different machines, so you've got cache creds everywhere. It's a hot mess. There's no reason for you to be running in as domain admin in your daily driver. So that's what this control is asking for. Show me, you could go as far as saying, show me the logins of like, who's your director of IT or whoever has domain admin. All right, now show me like the last couple logins from their, first of all, their non-priv account, and then show me their domain admin account. Some organizations will use something called privileged access management, which is a method or kind of a capability that allows you to, be driving as a general user, and then you have to do something and you can privilege escalate. So you're getting those rights without having to log out and log in with a different account. That's a more elegant solution, a more controlled solution, and one that's actually better. So you could say that's how you guys are doing it. But there's different ways to solve for it, right? Herman's asking, does this require years of experience in the industry? I mean, there's no requirement as far as like helping an organization prepare for CMMC. It's just your ability to speak to it, right? You have to be understanding, competent in these things, which is why we're going through it, right? All right, so next item on the docket here, limit unsuccessful logon attempts. Oh, this is another good one. This one's a super easy one, right? Is our AD, because most people are using AD, is there some type of threshold that if you log in with a bad password 5 times, the account gets locked out for 15 minutes? Or after the 5th time, it'll pause for like a minute, and then after the 6th wrong attempt, it'll pause for 2 minutes, right? This is classic brute force attack defense. And this is like a standard feature in many systems, including AD and Azure AD and, all of those, enterprise grade solutions. So this is another one that should be very, very quick. Ask a question, show me a screenshot of the configuration setting, move on to the next control, right? Basically. Okay. User session lock with pattern hiding displays to prevent access of viewing data after a period of inactivity. Use session lock with pattern hiding displays. Okay, so, so there's a couple weird things here, right? So use session lock, basically you walk away from your computer or you hit like Control L or whatever. And after a period of time, your computer turns to a screensaver with a lock password on it, right? Hopefully we all do this, right? Or when we walk away, we lock our computer. We go to the bathroom at Starbucks, we lock our computer, whatever. Now, when it says pattern hiding displays, that often makes me think of like when you type in a password and it's asterisks. But I could also see this meaning that when the screen locks, your pop-ups don't come down anymore, right? So you know how like a lot of people like on their phone or on their laptop will get notification bubbles and like little stingers. That's what they're trying to prevent. That way, if you're not at your computer, somebody who doesn't have access to your computer is also not able to like actually get any type of value from being at your computer and accessing it in any capacity, right? So it's just, it's a great control. Okay, moving on to the next guy. Authorize wireless access prior to allowing such connections. Okay, this is a configuration setting on the endpoint, and what we're saying here is that you don't just connect, like you don't just walk in and connect to an access point, right? Because bad guys can name a malicious access point the same as Linksys or Starbucks or AT&T Wi-Fi or whatever, and all of a sudden you automatically connect, and then it's not going well for you. Okay, so that's what this control is. This is another one where it's just a basic configuration setting on the endpoint. Show me a screenshot of it and let's move on. Okay. Protect wireless access using authentication and encryption. Okay, it's 2021. Who is running an unencrypted wireless network besides like a guest network, which you shouldn't connect to unless you use a VPN, but that's not even in scope for like an organization doing this right now. So basically, if you're the auditor, all they're going to do is open up their computer and look for a wireless network and see that it's encrypted, right? And then they might ask you like, what level of encryption is it? And what's the, is it EAP? Is it PEEP? Is it JAP? Whatever it is, just copy paste a screenshot and move on to the next one. That's what this one is asking about, right? I like you, service. I can't bring in my home router and plug in RJ. Yeah, well, IT is putting me down, man. I need access to all my devices, right? So yeah, bring your own router. It kills me when I find those things in environments. Oh wait, she's asking Josh for an example, right? Yeah. So Josh is bringing up a good point here. And thanks, Josh, for chiming in on this, right? By walking through this the way we are and having some comprehension of the controls, even if you don't have a lot of experience and can answer how the controls would be implemented, you can ask the business, how are you doing this? Whatever this is, how are you protecting the wireless access points? And they're going to give you some answer, right? And you just write it down. And if you don't understand what the answer was, then you have the answer, you have the control, you can use Google and kind of piece it together and get more experience. And as you do these more often, you'll get more exposure, more confident, more competent, and you'll be off to the races, okay? Okay, so let's keep on trucking here. AC3 separates the duties of individuals to reduce malevolent activity without collusion. Okay, this is your basic segregation of duty, right? The classic example is in the finance side of the house. So the person who can put in a new vendor into the AP system can't also issue checks out in the AP system. That way, Josh can't create a fake vendor and then that is his bank account and then issue a $50,000 check to that vendor because he doesn't have that duplicative permissions or it requires at least two people to issue checks, right? So on the InfoSec side of the house, you do the best you can, but oftentimes I've seen this control written so many different ways where it basically says, hey, listen, we are short-staffed and we do the best we can to limit the amount of permissions that people can do. We have a change control board. So, any changes made in the environment are known. Everybody uses their own unique account. So if there is an issue, we could trace back and identify who the individual was that committed the incident or whatever. But it's very uncommon to see like a really big explicit segregation of duties on the IT side, on the InfoSec side, because honestly, people wear so many hats, and then most organizations, there's like 2 or 3 people that are like the aces that do like 80% of the work. We all know it, and like they need all the access because they're the ones getting stuff done. Okay, so that's another one where you can explain it the best you can, and you'll have some type of justification. That one might get written up as partially in progress, but it will be difficult for an auditor to have like a remediation step for you, or like if you say, okay, well, if we're not compliant, then explain to me how we're supposed to be compliant, right? And that conversation becomes difficult. Okay. Also, just Yeah, many hats is tough, right? Yeah, we see that in software development all the time. Like, develop, test, push, all by one person, and it typically runs into bad things. So let me know. I'm going to keep going. I'll do a couple more, and then I'll look at the comments. But let me know in the comments if you would. Are you finding this practice, like the way I'm doing this, are you finding this valuable? If you'd like me to do it a different way, let me know. I'm doing this to provide value to you guys, not because I know all these controls and it's GRC stuff. So I'm doing it for you. So if it's not working or there's a better way to do it, tell me, because I'd much rather do it that way than just continue to do it a way that's inefficient or unoptimized. Okay, so let me continue on with these. Prevent non-privileged users from executing privileged function and capture the execution of such function in audit logs. Wow. Okay, a lot going on here. Basically, anytime you want to definitely take logs of when privileged functions are executing, right? Whether it's in AD because of password changes and stuff like that, or it's accessing some sensitive resource like HR files or something like that. And I know that's not a privileged function per se, but basically, anytime you're doing something sensitive, you want to have logs of who did it and when they did it and how they did it, right? So what we're trying to do is this one will pair nicely, like a good wine and some brie cheese, right? This one will pair nicely with like your least privileged control implementation. Like when you said earlier, we only give people access to the things they need. I showed you exactly how we use our AD for RBAC, and this is how we do it, right? We don't let non-privileged users execute privileged functions in the first place, auditor. But if we did, when anyone executes privileged functions like our admins and stuff, this is how we capture them in the logs. So I think we're good here. Next question. And the auditor's like just nodding approvingly. Yes, I agree. Okay. So next item on the docket here, terminate automatically user sessions after a defined condition. Okay, so like when someone walks away from their computer or they're RDP'd into a box or vendor remotes into your environment, right? You want to have some threshold. Like how long do they need to be in there? Is it 4 hours? Is it 8 hours? Is it 24 hours, right? Whatever it is, it's not infinity, okay? So you need some value that works both for the business and for information security's appetite that disables that connection. Okay, we also see this with, you don't do this all the time, but we can see this with VPN connections, right? Some organizations do always on VPN. Some organizations do split tunnel VPN, which is like a high risk thing. But you might want to have it terminate the VPN connection after say 24 hours thinking, well, anyone that's using this computer isn't going to work directly for 24 hours, so they don't need to be connected to our back office infrastructure for 24 hours, right? So that's what this control is. This one, it's easy to implement because it's a technical control that you simply configure, but this one is really organization dependent and like who needs to access what, when, what makes sense. You definitely have to conversation with the business because if you terminate VPN connections every 60 minutes, you're going to have a lot of angry end users, and there's just no reason to blow InfoSec political capital on something like that. Okay, I'm gonna read comments here just for a minute. Yeah, he's so true. Like flies on a wall, man. This guy or the woman, I'm not sure which one you are, lives the life. Flies on a wall, knows what's up, for sure. This is such a true statement. Okay, let me. Please do not allow regular users. Yep. Can you tell stories of things you've seen? Yeah, I'll trickle those in as I'm going. Let's see. Okay, I think, yeah, okay. Thanks. All right, I will keep it up. This is great. Thanks, Tom. Always good to see you. All right, so I'll just keep doing the way I'm doing. Thank you all for the feedback. Okay, let's keep on trucking. I got a hard stop at 4 for stuff. So this will be session 1. If people love it, I'll do all the sessions. I'll cover this whole control framework. All right, control connection of mobile devices. Pretty straightforward. You got phones and tablets. When they connect into your back office infrastructure, how are they doing it? What you will see most organizations do is something called mobile device management, MDM, or mobile application management, MAM. Intune is a popular one. There's a couple of free things out there. Zen Mobile is not free, but that's another one. There's a whole bunch of solutions. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're controlling devices that have access to your resources that have legs and walk around. This one's a technical control. It can be fairly expensive to implement effectively. And you can also do compliance policy checking. So like when a device tries to access your resources on your network, if it doesn't meet some minimum requirements, like it's not a jailbroken phone, or it is not, it's beyond iOS version 12.0, right? So it's like iOS 7 wouldn't be able to connect. That's another way to do that. You can have different levels of control and implementation on these things, but effectively that's how you would demonstrate it to an auditor and help an organization prepare. All right, control information flows between security domains on connected systems. Oh, you know what I should have said real quick? I should have mentioned this at the onset. When we're talking about this, I did say that it's all about protecting the CUI, right, or the controlled unclassified information. Another thing that you got to understand is like, if you're an organization that does a bunch of stuff, right? So like you make ball bearings, and you make mufflers, and you make bullets, right? But you only sell the bullets to the government, right? You don't need to necessarily implement all these controls across your entire enterprise, right? You can call what's called enclaving. You can basically enclave the bullet business unit and control all of those things, because as you deploy controls across an enterprise, or you scale up to larger endpoints and users, it becomes more expensive, right? So keep in mind that like when you're talking to an auditor or whatever, if they ask about something that's totally unrelated, but it would be a finding normally, you might have set it up already where you say, hey, listen, that's not in scope of the bullet business. Okay, this is where the controlled unclassified information is. It's on these systems. These users have access to it. This is the general support systems, the infrastructure pieces that support those users and computers. And what you're asking about is over here in our ball bearing business. So move on. And if you can demonstrate that, you'll be fine, and they'll just move on, or it won't be a finding, right? Okay, so scope matters. Okay. So anyways, control information flows between security domains on connected systems. Essentially what this is saying is, this one's tricky, but you'll want like a network flow diagram. Like here are the systems, here's a database, here's a server, here's like the internet, here's a couple users, right? How is the data moving? How do people access things, right? A diagram is going to be like probably a key piece of evidence to support this particular control request. And obviously you need the controls in place to limit the flow of the data, but those can be like dropped in Visio, right? Like you have to honestly depict what your network looks like. But if you have a firewall and you have an IPsec tunnel connecting VPN users into your environment, and only the database server can talk to the application server, which can only talk to like some type of DMZ web server thing, right? And it's all protected in a stacked way. That's good. That's how you're doing it, and that's how you can show it. So this one, an auditor is going to look for a network a network data flow diagram, which a lot of organizations don't have, or if they do, they're not up to date. But again, you can make it as current as you can. Maybe just do a review and then change the last reviewed date on it. That's how you'd address this one. Okay. Let's see. AC4. Periodically review and update CUI program access permissions. Okay. So this is interesting. I was like, what does this mean? And it's not mapped to any NIST control that I would be familiar with, right? So I don't know what CUI program access permissions are. That must be like a new thing that CMMC invented. But if I had to guess, it has to do with like the terms, right? So like anyone with access to CUI has to have a background check triannually and has to have a drug screening before they get employed. And they're only allowed to access it from company machines, or they're only allowed to access it from on-premise, right? That's how this is. But the actual technical control, again, I don't know if this is like technically verifying it or reviewing and updating the actual configuration of what those permissions would be, right? So this one I'm a little fuzzy on, but that's how I would interpret it if I was dropped into an environment today and I had to like do an audit tomorrow, okay? All right, AC5, identify and mitigate risk associated with unidentified wireless access. Oh, so actually, okay, so I made a mistake, people. So this is, okay, I made a mistake. Listen, I was going to do this beforehand, and I'm using Excel in a tab because I'm on a Mac and I don't have Excel. And I could not filter on the row of what CMMC level it was, 1, 2, and 3. So 4 and 5 trickle in there. And I actually just explained a level 4 control. You can see it right here. And this thing right here is level 4, and this thing's level 5. So we don't even care about those. Like, we're going for level 3, NAA. So if an auditor asks you about those, you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, are you new here, buddy? Like, that's a level 5. We're not going level 5. You know, get a cup of coffee and like, let's get on the right track, my friend. Okay. So level 2, monitor and control remote access sessions. Okay. This is super important. I'm going to do 2 more, and then I've got to kind of terminate or finish this thing to get ready for my 4. But monitor and control remote access sessions. Nothing could be more important besides multi-factor authentication, patch management, vulnerability management, and a couple other things. But this one's really high up on the list. Okay. Monitor and control remote access sessions is basically anyone remoting into your environment. You know that they're remoting in, and this doesn't necessarily, in my mind, does not count as VPNing, like end user staff, like getting on the VPN. This is more like vendors remoting in, or IT staff using like remote desktop, or any of that stuff. You could even say Citrix is remoting in kind of a way, but anyone that is getting access to your environment when they are remote or working at distance, you have to have control on that. And the major controls that I would point out here is you should have to have someone who works there actively involved in the initiation of that remote access. So like vendors can't just have TeamViewer access that they can come and go as they please, because you have no idea when they're there. You have no idea what they're doing. There's no record of it necessarily. This is how the Target hack happened years ago. If you guys remember the Target hack, because an HVAC company got popped, and the bad guys got into the HVAC company, and the HVAC company could remote in into Target, into their HVAC systems and across their network and stuff like that. And it resulted in a major data breach of payment card information. Okay, so that's what they're asking for here. And that's how you would demonstrate it. You would ask the business, okay, how are you guys remotely accessing stuff? Do you use RDP? Do you use VNC? What are you using? Do you use LogMeIn, TeamViewer, whatever it is? Like, let's get our arms around it. And now let's document, like, how do those connections happen? Are they encrypted? Who has the username and password for them? Does it require us to be involved in the actual activation of that connection? Is it terminate after a certain period of time? Is it a one-time key code to establish the connection, right? So this one, not only is it a compliance requirement, but this one's a really important control that organizations should be really smart about. Okay, so last one here, and then I'll mark it, and we'll do it again another time. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Employ cryptographic mechanism to protect the confidentiality of remote access sessions. Okay, no one's going to ask for employ cryptographic mechanisms. Basically, is the connection encrypted, right? Are they using TLS? Is it coming across an IPsec tunnel? Whatever it is, most solutions in 2021 are encrypted, right? So you just got to find out what it is. If it's unencrypted, that's ridiculous, and you should get a new solution and just move on to the next control. But in all reality, I'm not really sure. I mean, unless somebody, like, I have seen this in the past, right? Someone set up something and they telnet. I know people. They'll telnet into a box from home because it was easy or whatever. Like, that is stupid. So if you do find something like that when you're scanning your internal network, or you're doing an external kind of vulnerability scan of your network, and you do see unencrypted connection points like telnet, FTP, these type of things, you definitely want to get those cleaned up. But that's more legacy. If you've got like kind of a long in the tooth IT administrator who's been there 25, 30 years, and like that's the way it's always been done, or you've got some hack solution that a vendor put together and it requires some bizarre solution that's unencrypted. But for the most part, the high quality stuff you're going to get and the standard tools out there are going to be encrypted. So you'll be good with that. All right, y'all. It's 3:58. I've really enjoyed talking with you all. If you want, either do it on Discord or do it in the chat or the comments or whatever. Let me know if you can. If you want me to keep doing this, I mean, you kind of get the vibe of what I'm doing. I'm happy to go through it. I'm happy to give you examples from my past that I've encountered, pitfalls and challenges that you may encounter and things that can be pencil whipped, meaning you can just write a quick little process document, a quick little policy in order to get addressed. Let me know. I'm happy to do this. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. I know it was, I didn't even do the giveaway. I'm sorry, everybody. I kind of got off on a rant, but I love doing it. Love you guys. Really enjoyed Simply Cyber today. I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.